Hello, Glass Art Society. This is James Akers here to introduce Neon Around the World, a pre recorded talk where neon benders went live to talk about how they bend neon. There's a lot of regional differences, and the way people bend neon in different parts of the world is really, really different from one another. So I hope you enjoy this talk and rare insight into some of the different techniques used to bend neon. Take care. Everybody, thank you for coming. If we want, we can go ahead or go around and say where we're live from. So I'm James Akers. Just your name and where you're live from. And I'm James Akers, and I'm hosting and live from Maryland in USA. And then if you wanted to go ahead.
I'm Eve Hoyt, and I'm live from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA.
We are Lina and Hakim from Algeria.
I'm Katie. I'm coming live from Sydney, Australia.
Maybe I'll start. But I have what kind of torches we use to create our neon. So me personally, and I think, well, I won't speak for Eve, but for me personally, I use this Crossfire Torch. So I can actually do the screen sharing here. Okay, cool. And then, so hang on, let me get to
All the things.
all the things. So here's me bending on a ribbon burner here.
That's not
Oh wait, I can help. No, that's not gonna do any good. That's me bending on a ribbon burner. That's some neon. That, and some other, it's like 12 millimeter. I like to use these little spacer blocks to as a reference, but generally most of the bending is done off the table, as you saw in that photo over there in the ribbon burner. And then here's a little video of me. Oopsies. Here's a little video of me using the Crossfire Torch. So you can see it's usually done like for me, like holding it up. Usually there's like a 90-degree rotation too that happens while doing that. And then I use a blow hose to inflate it with one side of the tube corked. And I should say that most of the time the tubes are in 4-foot pre-coated lengths. And they're soft glass for bending, like a lead-free. They are patterned or computer drawn, or we draw it on the computer and then we use like a plotter. So there's the plotter that plots it out. It's really nice to use that. I don't know if you saw that. It's just a really short clip of it, but you can basically put a Sharpie in there or a pen or whatever. I like to use Sharpie because you can see it through the screen a little better, because as you saw before, we have we use a screen. The brass screens are best, but sometimes I have aluminum ones. There's another view of a Crossfire at a different shop. This one was kind of clamped together. And some Mercury traps. I make the Mercury traps just by blowing a little bubble in a piece of 5 millimeter tubulation. And this last video that I have is a little bit of me pumping. I use the bombarding system. So this is at the end of that bombarding, where I close off the vacuum valve and then open up a little bit of the gas valve. And this gauge here is really kind of terrible in that it always adjusts and sways when I go to fill things. So you have to like you have to like really baby it and pay attention. It works, and there's no fluid in it that like spikes up. And I make sure it works. It works. So, so those are some of the torches, and I think I covered some of the bending techniques. And I said I use this usually lead-free glass typically. Sometimes every now and then we use colored glass, but it's usually mostly phosphor coated to get the colors. and I showed a little bit of the processing the tubes. We bombard things here in America. It seems like most shops do that here, and then I have some short videos. Government regulations that have changed and altered the way we make neon. I know there's some things in the transformers, but I'll let Eve talk a little bit more about that since I was just trying to host. But here, I can stop my screen sharing here. Okay, good. All right, so Eve, if you have any videos or anything, it's okay if you don't, but
I have a couple that I queued up and some
awesome
photos.
So you should be able to share your screen at the bottom. There's a little green icon, and if not, let me know, because I think there's some settings I can change.
Oh wait, there it is. Okay, so well, I use 4 different torches. I also use a Crossfire, but it's a little different than yours, James. It's a 5-point Crossfire, so it has 10 tips, 5 coming from each direction, and a ribbon burner. And then I use the hand torch. I call it a fishtail torch. I don't know if that's the right name or not, but it has a flame coming from 2 sides. And then I also use the jeweler's torch, which is hooked up to an oxygen tank that I use for some welds. So so let me see. I will screen share and show you. So what I did, because I was having some technical difficulties, was I loaded on my Instagram stories a couple of videos. One is welding on a Mercury trap, because I do my Mercury traps a little differently. I do them like a side seal. So let's see. So it's just a little time lapse. So that's the jeweler's torch. That's something I started doing when I relocated from Maryland to Pennsylvania, just kind of typical in the shops up here. So, but, and then the next video that it's gonna roll to is an example of how I use this torch to just kind of do little embellishments on tubes sometimes, blowing a hole and then filling it in with like little bubbly thing. So so that is that. And so well the reason I do traps that way, because I could just do them the way that most people do them. I like them. What I like about traps that way is I never have to worry about sucking the mercury back into the unit, because it's pretty safe down there, or accidentally dumping it in before I want to. I usually just use my Crossfire for, most, the 90s and the double backs. I like to weld my electrodes on with the hand torch. I know a lot of people like to use the Crossfire, but I feel like I don't, I lose control of it too quickly. So, and as far as bending techniques, I mean, I like to, I kind of like to try and make a game of it and start at one end of the tube and just kind of bend my way to the other end. But I don't really have any specific techniques. As far as glass that I use, it's all soft glass, mostly lead free, but I did buy out the inventory of another shop last fall, so I was able to get a bunch of lead glass.
Ooh, nice.
So I have that, which sometimes is a pain, because I gotta adjust the fires. And I like to use 8 and 10 millimeter most in my artwork, but I'm comfortable up to like 15, which I didn't do a whole lot of. I did when I was working at a neon wholesaler, but for my own stuff, I didn't use it too much.
Yeah, seems to be the dominant size in America, seems to be from 8 to 15 millimeter. in my experience. But yeah, it's very seldom we ever go seems to be higher than that. 18 to 25. That's not something we typically use. But maybe we should go over to Hakeem now. Ask them
Okay.
a little bit
So
about
I'll stop my screen share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hakeem, would you are you about ready to present a few techniques?
Yes, of course, 2 minutes. My father, he starts by drawing the model that is going to make afterwards. He forms the neon and welds the electrode. Then he goes to the step to make the gas. For the neon afterwards, he contacts the neon on transformer.
Yeah.
And the neon lights up in different colors.
Cool. Yeah. If you want, I can share some of the videos that you sent me.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. All right. And then maybe you can talk about them a little bit. Let's see. Oh, we can just go right here to Firefox. Excellent. All right. I think you all can see that. Mark is still trying his thing. I just found some of these videos from Facebook, but this one kind of shows you some of the bending techniques here. So.
Oh, cool.
So Hakeem, did you want to talk a little bit, and Lena, did you want to talk a little bit about this? If you got double back bend in there.
Pour conformer le nerf sur place, c'est des cales en aluminium. C'est des cales en aluminium. C'est des cales en aluminium. Cales en aluminium. Voilà. Quand vous voyez, je fais des autos avec le chalumeau. Je mets un peu d'oxygène, beaucoup de gaz, d'oxygène, beaucoup de gaz pour bien brûler le tube nerf.
Seems like it's a much more like on the table approach.
He starts from the neon and aluminium, which, as you see, it makes you turn with the torch. It puts a little oxygen and a lot of gas to burn the neon tube well.
Huh. Are you using a borosilicate glass? Because you mentioned you're using oxygen in the torch. It seemed like in one of your other videos you had a borosilicate electrode. Do you know?
Souder les électrodes. Je soude les électrodes sur le tube. On a le tube تاعنا, le tube c'est un tube Pyrex.
Parce que
Fascinating.
C'est la matière Pyrex. C'est des électrodes européens.
I had one more here too. Oh, here's, just another view. You can see, like you mentioned, those aluminum blocks. Those are pretty.
Yes, for the last video, he welded the electrode to the tube because the electrode in Algeria are the worst material. No, I would say 2 minutes, but 2 minutes.
Yeah, it seems like it's a different glass for sure. Like it's a
No,
harder.
I used to say the electrode is about matters of Pyrex. I don't know if you know about
Pyrex.
it.
Yeah,
Yes, that's it.
yeah. So it's a whole different glass than we're using here.
Yes,
I think it's
Quel genre de matière?
and you in Texas, what is
Matière.
the
material. It's a soft glass, so it's a lead-free glass. So it's a different glass that seems to. I think it stays hotter or it stays movable a little bit longer, but it's also more prone to thermal shocking. So it will crack a little bit easier when exposed to heat.
Okay.
Le tube تاعنا il fait 3 mètres.
Yeah, so it's a.
بدري ما فهمت.
Our neon tube is 10 feet long to form big laters.
3 mètres.
Whoa. Up to 10 feet long.
Yes, it's yes, it's very long
Pour former des grandes lettres.
to form big laters.
Interesting. So yeah, here we get them mainly in 4 feet long. So that's pretty interesting to hear that they come so super long.
Yes, it's super long.
What sizes of glass do you use? So here we use between 8 and 15 millimeters. Is it pretty similar there?
قالك اسكو لا تاي تاع الكلاس هذيك لا تاي تاع
Le tube.
اسكو جونغ شحال
Diamètre.
اه
Diamètre.
ما بالي جونغ الطول ولا الديامتر تاعها
Diamètre 18-19.
دقيقة
Diamètre 18-19.
19 وشنو
18 par 19.
19
Par 19
Ouais.
de diamètre. Voilà, 18, 19 de diamètre. 13, 14 aussi.
اثنين
18, 19 plus diamètre. 13, 14.
كونيكسيون مي
قولي له فاهم يفهم diamètre شو
You understand what is diameter?
Diameter, like the tube size.
Yes, it's about 18 and 19 diameter.
18 and 19. Whoa.
Yes, or
It's
14
big.
and yes, it's big, or 14 and 13
Wow.
and 10 and 11 diameter.
Okay.
It's the
Interesting. So you have certain diameters that we would very seldom see here. It seems like we almost never see 14 millimeter or 11 millimeter sizes, and that's pretty interesting.
Yes, of course.
I did have one more video of you putting on an electrode that wasn't loading for whatever reason for me earlier, but I'll pull it up right now. And you can also see, it looks like you have a bombarding setup here. So here, I'll just start the video over again. So here's you, and you've got you use this interesting technique that I've never seen before to put on to T-seal the other electrode on. So see right now, you've got. You pop that hole. So yeah, it looks like you're using a bombarding setup.
Sur lettre, machine lettre. Quand je soude la première électrode, première électrode.
Oui.
Je vais souder encore le petit tube, le tube, le petit tube,
Un tube.
tube solaire,
Le petit tube.
le
And I've
tube
never seen
solaire.
a way to do a T-seal like this before. It's pretty interesting.
La pompe,
Um,
باش نديرو
you
الغاز.
seal it on like that with the blow hose already on it like that. I would have tubulated the other electrode.
Et le soude.
It's pretty interesting to see.
Souder في البومبة. Le soude sur la pompe. Pompe
Pompe à gaz. Pompe à gaz ou pas?
C'est pompe
Sur la pompe.
شفت بها.
C'est sur la pompe. Je résous encore le tube et le soude sur la pompe.
Soude sur la pompe.
Ensuite, le soude sur la pompe.
Pour injecter les gaz. Voilà.
Very, very quick from, it seems like the glass sets up pretty quick, very fast.
He welds the electrode on the letters, and when he welds the first electrode, he will weld the small tube again, and then he weld it on the pump to inject the gases.
Yeah. Yeah, this way of putting on the electrode, I've never really seen that before, where you can put it on in the middle of the tube and then remove the other side. That's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Tous les Français travaillent comme ça.
And those torches seem to adjust very quickly. It's pretty fascinating.
C'est les mêmes méthodes comme européennes. C'est des normes européennes parce que tout ce qui est Canada,
Kind of
Texas,
similar to your jeweler's torch, sort of. In that distinctive flame.
Yes, it's the same. It's like the same method as the European.
Yeah, yeah. It looks very similar. It's pretty fascinating.
Pour le logement au Texas, le tube, c'est tube sans plan, au blanc. Tube sans plan. Difficile à là.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Please, what kind of heat you're working with?
The heat, yes.
Yeah.
We don't use any, or I don't think Eve uses any. Maybe Eve uses some in the hand torch, but we don't use any oxygen in the flame. So it's just air, air, and then either natural gas or propane. So it's less hot flame. It's not as hot as your flame.
So you don't work with the heat.
We do. It is hot, but not. There's no oxygen, so the flame is not as hot, I don't think, as what you're using. The glass doesn't need to get quite as hot as the Pyrex. The soft glass melts at a little bit lower temperature. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, if you want, now maybe we can move on to Katie and talk a little bit about what she was doing. Katie, did you want to talk a little bit about your process?
Yeah, sure. I don't have any pictures or videos on my computer lineup, but I can definitely send you some.
Yeah.
Awesome, cool.
And we can share a screen if you want, but yeah, you can send me some and I can put them up. Awesome,
cool. Yeah, I generally in Australia, we sort of exclusively just use the ribbon burner as a torch. So we don't have the crossfires or the cannon burner. So we just work exclusively with the ribbon burner, and we'll just work diagonally across the flame or adjust the height when you go into the fires for like smaller bends or larger bends or sharper bends. So we just try and get away with just using the one burner. In terms of we also, it's actually really cool to see yeah, everyone using the jeweler's torch because yeah, I didn't know. I thought that was just an Australian thing, but yeah, I use the jeweler's torch as well, oxy torch, and yeah, usually just for welding and connecting the electrodes. Um, in Also with tubulation, do something different again with the tubulation. So instead of having, I think James has like the bubble in the middle. I also have the bubble in the middle, but at a right angle, so it'll be like right in the middle. It's just like an extra level to sort of protect the like mercury from going into the vacuum system. In terms of we also bombard. We use a two vacuum system, so we'll have a rotary vacuum for our roughing pump, and then we'll have a diffusion pump for our fine pump. With the processing, we'll always do like a helium flush in between, just to make sure the glass is nice and clean. I'm trying to think what were the other questions.
No, these are really good. I can ask you a few more.
Yeah, that'd be great.
what millimeters of glass do you usually use? Is there a certain range that's more commonly used?
We're generally 8 mil to 15 mil. We'll do weird 6 mil projects and all of that, and sometimes we'll have up to 25 mil for. We have this one client comes in all the time. It's like for elevators, and they're all 25 mil, like the lighting for the elevators. So that's fun to work with. But yeah, we're using in Australia, especially. The company I work for, we're like the largest neon stockist for Australia. So we have tons of old stock. So we're using a lot of lead glass in Australia, which was like, just recently, like I came into the trade, learned how to bend on the lead glass. They introduced the lead free, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so
Wow.
tricky. But
So
getting
it's been
used to it
pretty
now.
recent, you're saying?
Yeah, pretty recent, the lead free. We do use like the Pyrex sometimes, but mainly that's usually for like manifolds and things like that, not generally for commercial use.
Yeah. It's almost never used in America. Only like for manifolds, like or artistic like borosilicate glass, but in the industry it seems like it's almost never used. And I don't. Most shops don't have the oxygen needed to use it. So it's pretty fascinating. Katie, when I bent with you before, I noticed you never use a blow hose. Is that something you learned from the beginning, or that way, or does it seem like a lot of people in Australia do it that way, or?
No, I don't. It's generally just my mentor Stephen Cole. Like if the smaller stuff, he'll sort of like if it's smaller, you can reach around it. You can just blow straight into it. I have been trying to utilize my blow hose a bit more just to reduce. We've got some old stock, so a lot of it's already got a lot of moisture in it. So I've been incorporating my blow hose a lot more. With I think you saw at Pilchuck that I use like a little handmade sort of mouthpiece that are made out of pip glass, and then you put like a little bit of cotton in, just like trying to no moisture in the tube. So I've been trying to do that.
Interesting. Yeah, because I noticed in my blow hose a lot, I just like subconsciously like drool or moisture from their breath gets in it. And so I never even thought about that as a factor of going into the tube, but it makes total sense if you're routinely like blowing into it.
Well, yeah, like I find in any step that I can reduce the amount of moisture that will be in it, because we do have some old stock, so it's like it's already seen some moisture, so just want to reduce anything going into it. So even actually I forgot to mention, in the pumping process, I found like one of the coolest things that I found is the compression fittings. So that way you can just like screw your sections directly onto the manifold, therefore you don't have to weld, and that just it's just another stage to reduce moisture, and saves you lots of time, saves you lots of pip glass. It's really handy.
So,
Yeah, I worked in a shop once where we did that, and it was pretty nice to just there was like little 5 millimeter compression fittings, like you said, and you would just slide it right in and then screw it on, and that was
It's
all
so
you needed to
good.
do.
Yeah.
And there was no welding on at all, which was really handy. But some shops seem to, I don't know, everyone has their own way, so it's interesting to hear that. And yeah, I think Eve, I think you use a similar diffusion pump on your pumping side a little
Yeah, I
bit.
have a diffusion pump and just a direct drive vacuum pump, and then I have diffusion pump, also hooked into my system.
Yeah.
So, Katie,
Oh.
were you calling tubulation pip glass?
Yes, yes.
I love that.
I love all the different terms. I realized this actually talking to James, and just like even moving from Melbourne to Sydney, the different terms for different things, even different bends. Like I call the like double back. Some people call it U bend. I like the step up. I don't know. There's lots of
Rise
different
bend.
terms. Yeah.
The terms are very fun. Hakeem has very different terms for
Yeah.
everything, obviously. Hakeem and Lena, what would you call like the double back U bend when you bend the glass into a U? Like this part, like where it goes like that. Just like a U bend. Seems like it's pretty similar in French.
Yeah,
we have an U.
yeah,
Yes, just we don't have a special name.
Yeah, you bend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. But thank you all for coming. Did anyone else have any other questions for anyone else?
I was just gonna ask, Eve, is that so? You using the jeweler's torch? Did you? Because I'd never met anybody in America using the jeweler's torch before. Did you get taught that from a mentor, or is that something you picked up?
Yeah, so that seems to be regional to just a section of the United States. When I moved to Philadelphia, all of the shops up here used jeweler's torch, and in fact didn't even use the other hand torch that you typically use with neon.
Yeah.
So Philadelphia and southern New Jersey, like just kind of like the shops in that area. So, I mean, I would imagine that happened because some person in the history of tube benders in the area maybe started using one and showed somebody else. And yeah, and I love it now. Like I'm so glad. I feel like it would be harder for me to work without it, because I use it. I like to use it when I'm doing welds. I can leave like a piece on top of the bending table and weld, two sections together without having to like hang it over the side with the other torch. Because I don't like to do any welds in the Crossfire. I find it just seems like I'm losing control of them.
Watching James do it, I was like, whoa, I'd never seen it before. I was like,
Eve, do you use oxygen in your jeweler's torch?
Yeah, I have a kind of a large oxygen tank that I have. My neon shop's on the second floor of my garage, so I have the oxygen tank like downstairs and just ran the hoses up.
That's cool. How long does that tank last you? You probably use a very small
A
amount.
long time, because it's pretty big. So like maybe every couple of years I have to, because I don't do a huge volume of bending in the first place. So yeah, it takes me a while to.
Interesting. Yeah, like Katie said, I mean, I know almost no one uses that in America. It seems like I've seen one or two videos before, but nothing, not a lot. But I like the technique. Like you said, with the Mercury trap, I've never seen a more effective Mercury trap myself, and I know I've had problems where either like I like to make the bubbles of my mercury trap super big, but sometimes if you're pumping like a very large diameter and lots of volume to be pumped and you open it up too quick, the mercury will suck back, and it's like,
Yeah, that's
you have mercury in the manifold, and it's just a huge mess. So that your method seems to be one of the best I've seen.
Au fait, ils ont
it's a little, some people might complain it's slow, and I
Right.
guess it is. It takes a few minutes longer, but
Oh,
since I don't work in a production shop anymore, I can take my time. So,
plus de 100 mètres linéaires.
I'm wondering what does everybody use for their layouts? Because I just moved to a shop we're just using we use patchcloth, and I was wondering if anybody still uses patchcloth or fireproof paper. I've heard something about that before, or just like the gauze mats.
Mm-hmm.
I just use paper and a screen, mainly just because the I guess we call it transvestis here. It's just expensive. So, and most of the things I do, I'm probably just doing one of. So, sometimes I even use tracing paper, and then just, tape the tracing paper to a regular sheet of paper and then screen over top.
Yeah. I'm pretty similar to Eve in that regard. I mean, we're pretty close to each other too, but yeah, it seems like most of the things I do are maybe like one off or maybe two things needed. And yeah, like you said, the transvestis is so expensive. I do know of some places in New York that really like plot onto the transvestis paper, but I never saw the need personally because it is so expensive. Hakeem, do you usually use regular paper to put your templates on, or do you use a special paper when you draw the pattern?
No,
No, not special paper. It's just
regular.
paper to draw with.
à l'envers, biface, à l'envers.
Yeah, it looked. I was just looking at one of your photos. It looked like a regular giant sheet of paper. And now that I look again, that tube is super long.
He used a craft paper inside out.
Oh, okay, like a backwards kind of.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty similar. Yeah.
My father wants to ask you, how do you work with the big neon?
With the big larger tubes?
Yeah.
Okay. So usually the glass comes in 4-foot lengths, and we splice them together. Like Eve was saying, she uses her hand torch. I use that Crossfire Torch with the 2 heads to weld things together, because I find it, for me personally, it seems to give like a nice larger heat and hotter flame. It's a little faster. Katie, do you usually weld tubes together? What's your preferred method for welding, since you usually use ribbon burner? Do you usually use like a little single-ended? You usually use a single-ended hand torch, Katie, right? Or correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah, single-ended. It's too late. It's late here.
It's early here.
But yeah, I just use my jeweler's torch to weld sections together.
Interesting. And you have a
It's very interesting, yeah.
like your hand gonna go.
Yeah, 360 all the way around.
In America, our hand torches, like Eve was saying, are double-ended. So you only move your hand 90 degrees like that. I guess you don't have the same, you probably don't get quite as hot as some of your single-ended torches, or you probably don't have that same level of control as to what side.
Yes, probably we don't have the same, yeah.
Non, moi aussi je fais des chalets dans le tube aussi, comme ça. Et un verre comme ça, le tube. Non, non, brûleur. C'est un chalumeau, un gros chalumeau. يعرفوا. Le tube, on le fait comme ça. Et après, on fait le retour. Ça fait, je sais pas,
I have a question for Hakeem. When you start with a 10-foot tube, do you usually start in the middle? Do you ever break it up to make it easier to work with? Because it seems like a 10-foot tube would be kind of hard to bend across the shop.
ouais, ouais, au milieu.
Yes, he starts from the middle.
Ah,
Le tracé au milieu.
And
Avec le fil, là, on fait le fil tracé. Après, on forme
with
ça.
tube and blocks.
with the blocks, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because I was trying to think about how I would approach that, and it seems like even just to get it into the door of some of the places that I work, it'd be really tricky.
Yeah.
So great. Well, this has been super fun, and thank you all for joining. I definitely learned something. I had no idea that
Me too.
using those tubes and like with Katie, like I didn't even think about the moisture thing, and yeah, like with I thought it was really fun, really neat. So
Yeah.
yay, neon around the
Yeah.
world.
And around the world.